What's good, everybody? Welcome back to the Cloud Slayer podcast. Today I'm joined with a special guest, Mr. Rob Tibbetts. Welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks, Travis. It's cool to be here. I've never done anything like this. I've had interviews and stuff, but this is the first time I've ever done a podcast.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm glad I could be your first, and I appreciate you taking the time and coming out here after the Gophers got a W. So,
That was. I don't know if that was kind of a touch and go for a minute. I thought that they were gonna get blown out when the first possession. It was like a 3-play drive, and they were down 7-0 with. I think there was like 10 minutes left in the first quarter.
Heck yeah. But it's awesome that they can come back from that, swing the momentum back into their favor and stuff and ultimately pull out the W and stuff. So, oh man. Which we all know since we played sports, how hard that could be, especially if you're like losing, sometimes there's just some of those where you're like, we just can't come back at all or something of that nature.
Tough to stop being so self-critical too when you're getting burnt up, especially when somebody's just like, if you think about Travis Heezers, like trying to defend him on the baseline, and you could give him, like maybe 3-4 inches on the baseline, and he'd take it and he'd get by you, and
how the hell do you do that?
without stepping out,
right.
But some people are just like really gifted, and that has not been the case. I was always a really hard worker, and I think that hard work will only get you so far. You got to have a lot of talent, a lot of gifts from creator, and it's kind of important.
Absolutely. I've been that way too. I've been working my butt off and, stuff like that when I was younger playing sports. But then I'd see my little brother and I'd be like, oh, that dude ain't working out as much as me. So shouldn't be like that. But he'd be leaping through a ceiling and playing really great defense. I'm like, dude, he doesn't even come out and play that much as me. But, it's like
Kenny was a good athlete,
Heck yeah, it was freakish, I was kind of jealous, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm just not seeing some of the hard work that he puts into sometimes is just being a strict older brother and stuff like that. So we did have our qualms, and I think he just practiced in secret when I wasn't around because I was really, really tough on him, growing up.
Don't want you to know what he's doing.
Yeah, it's like, fuck that guy. So
what he's working on.
Yeah, because we used to fist fight a lot, because that's how competitive we were and stuff. And anybody that has a brother or siblings that they're really close to and they had to compete in anything, it could get physical.
Often.
Oh yeah, very often. It was
kids that you grew up with on the block, still got love for them, but they're burning you up and piss you off.
Right. Yep. We're going to be punching each other in the face one minute, and the next minute we're like, best friends again. So, But when you're on that field, when you're on that court or wherever the heck you're competing at, it's just like at that moment, no, freak that, I'm the winner here. So,
or just arguing over a call.
Yeah, because that could be the deciding factor of the game, in some of those instances.
What do you mean that's a foul?
Suck it up, bitch, stuff like that. And
I'll show you a foul.
You'll cry to your mom after this, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, but it's awesome to have that camaraderie at the same time too. So,
you're not getting a fight. See you here tomorrow.
Yep. Right. Oh man, and. I think a lot of those carry people through life too, and for people that don't grow up with like a father figure or something like that, or a figure that helps push them, that those things are why they lean towards sports and stuff, right? Is because that helps build that want to do something or achieve something.
I think too, coaches are important, particularly for a lot of kids that don't have somebody at home that's going to be tough on them. Grandma probably won't be tough on you. If you have a single mom, she's probably not going to be tough on you.
She's probably going to be working.
Your dad, your coach. Well, not your dad, but your coach and your male teachers might be a little tougher on you than they would, and kind of they see you, kind of fucking up. They're gonna, kind of pull you aside and say, hey, you're fucking up.
Right. Put your head on your ass, what are you thinking? Do you need help or what,
Well,
shit
yeah,
like that.
you know, and it's not always being tough on them too. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like a lot of times, it's just taking a minute and saying, "Everything all right? You doing okay with everything?" You know, and the kids will, you know, either respond or they'll get mad and kind of.
Oh yeah, I've seen like even in Cass Lake there. I've had quite a few friends who didn't necessarily care like about school per se, and that's not saying that they weren't smart enough to do the work because I seen these dudes. They're smart guys. They just didn't want to do the work, you know. And it's like, what the heck? They're
Put
like,
it
why
out till the
should I?
end of the week and maintain eligibility.
Yeah.
And that's about all they care about.
Yeah, hell yeah, and. It kind of, I don't know. I know I was never like that, but I did see these people do that, you know. And some people didn't even play sports because of their bad grades, you know. And I was like, dude, you got talent. Why aren't you just doing that? You
I
know.
can think of a couple of guys that were maybe a year older than you in Cass Lake
Mm-hmm.
that were really talented athletes, you know, and why they didn't play. Well, probably didn't want to listen to the coach, you know, and probably, you know, didn't want to have to do more than the bare minimum at school. And, you know, it's hard because it's kind of where the difference between being a leader on the court or on the football field or something like that and being a leader in the classroom and a leader in the broader school community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the two that I'm thinking of right now kind of had the potential to do both, but they, you know, started getting involved in I think probably smoking a lot of pot, during school, and it you know, it steals ambition from people, you know. And I'm not saying that for everybody, but for a lot of people, it does, you know.
Absolutely. And I don't know.
No, I'm not saying I've never smoked either. I mean,
Right.
It's
Well, a lot of it can be attributed to your experience too, of where you speak from, and I smoked pot too, quite a bit. I got caught once in high school. My mom, she smacked me in the face and was pushing me down the stairs, like I needed that. I was 17 years old, and I didn't touch pot for the longest time until I was like 21, and it was like, oh man, I'm 21, might as well get drunk and smoke some pot and stuff like that. Because my buddy's like, I got weed. I was like, let's go. So it's a different time,
Yeah, well, the thing too is that I mean, things have changed for kids a lot because of the pandemic, and I think there's a lot of kids recovering still. And when parents are going to work all day and the kids are at home, probably sometimes kind of dinking around, I mean, I know I grew up watching my dad smoke, and it was almost like just a part of his day,
Absolutely. Like beer used to be a part of everybody's day. In the morning, they'd have a beer for breakfast. It wasn't uncommon, right? So, and there are people that I know that smoke a lot of weed, and they're like the most productive people I know. But then you know a lot more people that do it, and they don't do shit, So,
yeah, well, I think it's everybody's different, I mean, let's see, it would be like maybe a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
I took a hit, my brothers were passing back and forth, and I looked at it, I said, I don't know, and then I was like, well, I took a puff, and I mean, it's a lot more intense and a lot more THC content now than it was in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. That brick weeds.
Oh, the swag. Yeah. And it's just, I mean, I was like staring off into the sky, and supposed to be hunting, and I was thinking, man, I don't want to walk through there. I'll get lost.
I'll just stay by these guys. Yeah.
Yeah. So I ended up just kind of posting for that drive, and then come around, and we were talking in between drives, and they asked me if I wanted some more. I was like, I don't know.
That one was enough.
Yeah, that was the last time I touched the stuff.
Yeah.
It's different now, man. I mean,
no, yeah, it'll definitely take a lot to get used to. So, I remember like the first time I did that, smoked weed, and it was like I did it once before I got caught, and it was like I was staring at a blank TV, and I swear I watched the whole Finding Nemo movie, but the TV was off the whole time. I was like, what the heck?
Yeah, I remember see, I must have been 9 or 10, and I went to my cousin Bub's birthday, and we went behind. See, his dad had horses and chickens and shit right by Roy Lake, and we went behind the. They had a couple of trailers there, you know, and they had bike parts and car parts and stuff inside of them, and we went behind there, and they, you know, like started smoking and here, take some of this, you know. And, okay. You know, and then, so I smoked and hold it in, you know, held it in, and I don't know, it was kind of like, I didn't realize how dizzy it was, you know, and then like our Ojibwe word for to be kind of like a little bit stoned is giwishkwe nuse.
Yeah.
You know, the giwishkwe part is to be dizzy, and the nuse part is from the lungs. So giwishkwe nuse, you know, and I didn't realize how dizzy I was till we started playing football, and like I was falling all over the place and everything. I was like, what the hell's going on?
Right.
You know, it was kind of nuts.
I never knew how like some of those people could play like stone. Like they'd come back like, oh, we're gonna go bathroom, like a group of them, and then they'd come back just red eyed, and you're like, that guy's obviously on something. And then you're like,
oh yeah.
And then they play good, you know, like.
Get in the zone,
right? We talk about Thomas Heesers. He'd play stone too, you know, and I think he got caught on suspended for like a full year because they caught him smoking weed that one time and cigarettes another, you know, and it's like that's a darn shame because, like you said, the kid was very talented, you know. He had
Thomas too was really talented.
Oh yeah, you know? Thomas, Travis, and heck yeah, and it was like that sucks, but like. I wonder where they're going to go from there since they legalized it, but I'm sure it's still going to be bad for kids, obviously, because kids shouldn't do it.
I think you have to be 21 to use it recreationally, even.
Absolutely, unless they got like some medical clearance, I'm guessing. But since they use it for medicinal stuff, I heard that they rescheduled it and said that it doesn't do anything medicinally. So I'm like, well, you better stop doing like medical
anxiety. You know, I mean, geez, I used to be a pretty anxious dude, and that's why I think I used it mostly through high school. You know, I started driving when I was 16. I had a car my mom and dad let me use, and I ended up driving every day. And you know, like parking across the street from the school, taking off with my cousin Mossy, and you know, my buddy Brian. And we'd smoke. Sometimes Brian would drive to school, and he had this little Escort. It was a blue Escort. And it had an exhaust leak. So by the time we got to school, whoever had to sit in the back smelled like exhaust and had a big headache. But that was better than riding a bus.
Right? Yeah, that bus was pretty bad for us too. Jeez. But like, so you smoked quite a bit when you were from 10 years old till you graduated, or like was it like once in a while?
Till I was like probably 39.
39? I gotcha.
So like 30 years of my life, basically, you know, 29, 30 years of my life.
Right. But they say like that it doesn't necessarily make you stupid or anything like that, but it makes it like a lot of people that do it, especially in like those developmental stages, like they just don't develop their mind all the way, you know. But it's like,
I think it's partly like it keeps them from developing healthy ways to cope, you know, and I think that's part of mind development too. Because I mean, until I stopped drinking and I stopped like smoking weed every day, you know, I felt like that was my coping mechanism. You know, I mean, have a shitty day at work, well, get out in the car and spark a joint. You know,
right? Back hurts, let's go smoke a doobie.
Yeah,
and stuff like that.
But I mean, I think it definitely keeps people from finding healthier ways to cope. You know, I mean, geez, even I didn't start drinking until I was like 14, I think.
14, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, that was, remember we were just talking, like before we started the podcast, we were talking about how people are kind of, how Native people in particular are kind of allergic to wheat and sugar or have a sensitivity to it.
Absolutely.
And, that's where a lot of like food addiction even comes in. You know, I mean, it's like when you have, well, it's made out of barley, and that's like a wheat, you know, beer, sugar, alcohol, like rum, you know, and
any of those mixes, they have a butt ton of those mixes nowadays that they're selling, like pre-mix in the
Yeah.
cans. So I'm sure those are ultra addictive with some sugar and stuff.
Oh
you know?
yeah, you know, I mean, but even that, you know, is kind of like might be part of the reason that Indians like have a hard time, in particular, leaving that stuff alone.
Mhm.
You know, and might be why a lot of people end up running into trouble with that.
Right. Do you think there's other influences that like push you towards like drinking alcohol, especially at like a younger age, at like 14 and stuff?
Well, I mean, just look at TV. You
Mhm.
know, I mean, if you're watching any sports, try to keep count of how many beer commercials are on a football game tomorrow, or even today on the Gopher game, how many beer commercials there were.
Right.
You know, looks pretty cool when you're, you know, 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. All the rich people are having a great time having a cocktail or something.
That looks really relaxing.
Right. They're on a yacht or some shit.
Yeah,
You're like,
and-
motherfucker, I wish I was there.
Yeah, and then, you know, 6 beers deep, you're getting pissed off, or you don't know why. You know,
Right. And you're like, man, it doesn't feel as fun as those gosh darn commercials, you know?
we got to try some more.
Scientific.
I might not be drinking enough of it.
Right. But I was gonna have a lady on last night, but she ended up, she was like traveling and stuff. She's from Oklahoma and she's like a cannabis grower. I was gonna have some questions about that, how to cultivate it and stuff, since it did become legal here, and it sounds like the tribe's gonna be probably leaning more towards doing that kind of stuff too, right?
I think White Earth has a dispensary, and Red Lake.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and
I think Leech Lake's going to be working on one. They just got approved by the tribal council or something,
which
like
is
that.
crazy because I mean they had, you know, the talk about it being potentially legalized on August 1st
Yeah.
of this year started more than a year ago. You know, and I don't know. Well, you know, it's easy to, I guess, say that in retrospect, but you know, politics is slow moving, and it's really slow moving. You know, particularly economic development,
Mm-hmm.
and that's. I mean, you have to almost have a crystal ball. You know?
To be able to predict it and stuff. It's because it leans a lot on like what people's political beliefs are too, right? And which regard they decide to go with some of those bills, or whether they make it legal or illegal. But yeah, especially for us being Democratic, you think that would have changed a lot more, because we do lean more towards that stuff too, right? Like marijuana and stuff like that. So
Well, I don't know if it's really democratic per se. If you're, you know, if you like the people that make the decisions on who's going to be endorsed for a particular office, or you know, who's going to be able to run or even, you know, be considered, aren't the people we see every day. They're people that are, you know, making all these huge, you know, multi-billion-dollar, you know, what do they call them, PACs, political action committees, and you know, throwing money at the politicians. But it's not a bribe.
it's not.
You know,
But we did decide not to do what I said we were going to do. So there we are.
yeah, you know, so I mean, it's. I think it looks like a democracy, but we're really kind of like, I suppose you could call it a, you know, capitalist state. You know, we're kind of, the money makes the decisions. You know,
Absolutely. And yeah, we kind of had to see what happened in other states and stuff too, because that lady from Oklahoma, she's like facing a bunch of dispensaries out there, like facing like weird legal stuff, where like the government was like sending out that they didn't, claim it, all the taxes that they were supposed to, that they owe them money, that they're going to shut them down and stuff like that. And these are like small businesses, you know, like mom and pops growing weed and type shit, like hippies that have been doing it for hundreds of years, you know.
since the 60s.
Yeah, since the 60s.
Are they on the res?
No, this one's Oklahoma, but my sister did say that they do have some people on like Red Lake that's growing. Like they're not part of the dispensary, but they sell their crops to the dispensary and stuff like that.
Yeah,
I'm like, that's pretty awesome. So.
well, that's good. You know, I mean, I think that they probably could have had the same thing going on in White Earth, but you know,
They flew some guy in and hired him, right? Some guy from California or something like that.
I haven't been keeping up with things at home too much. I've been pretty busy with working at school and
Absolutely.
trying to take care of my kids, and my family, and taking time off from work too, because that's really important. I mean,
you only get so much time with your family, So.
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to be running into even less time, or having less time with my family, because I think I'm going to be starting a job here that's going to be kind of helping to get language programming going over at White Earth.
Okay, so you're going to be doing like a lot more traveling and stuff, huh?
Yeah,
because you'll basically go like to community to help make it more accessible for them.
I think so. There's going to be some of that, and identifying people within the communities that can help with that. But I think what a lot of it's going to be is like helping decide. I'm hoping helping decide like policy and setting up professional development. If you look at the way that a lot of foreign languages are taught, usually the teacher tries to keep the class in the language in the target language 90% of the time. And a lot of times we don't have teachers that can do that, and it makes it kind of tough.
Absolutely.
And well, if you look at Spanish classes in Casa Igbina, I think every couple of years they took a trip to Costa Rica or someplace, a Spanish-speaking country. Well, they could have just went to South Minneapolis, or Chicago,
right,
or even Milwaukee, to get kind of some immersion. But they go to a Spanish-speaking country. Well, the United States is a Spanish-speaking country
as well.
But, but the people that have power don't speak Spanish generally,
right?
But they could have, they can go to a Spanish-speaking country. But as for us, it's hard to get that experience because there are very few places that are monolingual Ojibwe speakers or monolingual Ojibwe communities. I was blessed enough to have an experience when I was in college. Going up to Lac La Croix First Nation, and they were largely bilingual. There were a lot of them that spoke broken English, and a lot of people spoke broken Ojibwe too. So, but I got to learn about a lot of things up there. As far as culturally, and kind of. With the language too, and that was pretty cool. I was fortunate.
Heck yeah! Was that like your first time coming around like the culture, like a native culture, I guess, like that?
Well, see, we do, I guess, have a ceremony. Yeah, because there was a ceremonial drum that the lady I stayed with, her name was Marie Ottertail. She took care of a ceremonial drum, and they feasted the drum before they had their celebration. But
it wasn't in the language as much.
Yeah, well, they did like everything in the language. Pretty much everything that was important as far as the celebration and everything goes. And even like I think their youngest speakers now are my age. But I think that stopped too because at the time they were just starting to get satellite dishes up there.
Oh, okay.
So English is so pervasive. I don't think they could get radio on the air. And I don't think they could get television. If they could, it was only, I think, Canadian Public Television. I think they called it TVO.
TVO, yeah.
Yeah, and they, with the pervasiveness of English, making its way in there with satellite dishes first, I think the kids that were younger than my age can understand, but they don't put it together as much.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of, maybe if I think there's a place in Barons River, Manitoba, I think it's in.
Okay.
And they are more monolingual, but they're really isolated, I mean, as far as I know, that they're just living in, kind of like trailer houses that are, skidded out there somehow. maybe over ice or something.
Right.
But it's really isolated, like on that Ice Road Trucker show. I think that's how they get stuff out there.
Heck yeah, or else like some of those Alaskan, the Alaskan police shows, they have a lot of a lot of native stuff going on in that show too.
Oh my God,
showing where they're living at. It's like, holy crap, man.
Yeah, well, I think anywhere that you have people that have been systematically oppressed over time, and just finally, it was illegal to be an Indian basically for over 100 years.
Heck yeah, and that's why a lot of they were being persecuted in the boarding schools and stuff too, right? And taught that the language was bad and the culture was like witchcraft in a sense, right? There's Medewan ways where people think that's just straight witchcraft and stuff like that. I almost got in a fist fight with a guy drinking at some house party, and I don't want to bust him out. It was in White Earth anyways, and he was one of my friends. He was a blackjack dealer or he ended up doing poker, so he was getting the big bucks, getting the big tips or whatever. And he was just strung out on drugs and stuff. But he was going to fight me because his dad told him it was nothing but witchcraft. And I was like, that's because they went to boarding schools, right?
Yeah. Well, there's still a lot of that, and it's and I don't want to be divisive or anything right now, but it's just kind of the way it is that a lot of the families that accepted Christianity and believed that what they were told in boarding schools kind of pass that down intergenerationally. I remember my grandma; she went to boarding school. I miss her like a lot. But she died when I was 16.
Oh, geez,
it was like 32 years ago.
Yeah,
but she used to think anything that wasn't, I guess, sanctioned by the church was kind of evil,
because it was so ingrained into her and stuff.
Yeah. But she also told me, well, not me necessarily, but told my mom and my mom's sisters that sometimes when they'd see a kid, or she'd see a kid that wouldn't listen to the nuns, they'd take him out in the middle of the night and, wouldn't see that kid again.
Right.
So, I mean, they kind of juxtapose themselves as being all powerful and all holy.
Absolutely. You don't listen.
And while they're killing kids that don't listen and telling those kids that they're, just by their being, by the essence of who they are, that they're evil, so it's really a lot of hypocrisy, and
absolutely,
it's so crazy,
Yeah, my grandpa was in a boarding school too. He died when I was 16. That's why I was like, oh, geez, because I love that guy. He was a Christian, but he also believed in he was initiated before he went through the boarding school from when he was like a kid and stuff. So he believed in both ways in a weird way. He was kind of a crazy guy, but yeah.
Well, it makes it hard, because he must have carried this inner conflict throughout his life, Yeah,
because he went he served in Vietnam and stuff like that, and I don't know. He graduated from the University of Hawaii. I think he was a psychology major and stuff like that, and he was always, he was a really smart guy, and he had a lot of great stories and stuff like that, but I think he tried to hold it together in front of us and stuff like that. But I had a lot of abuse from him when I was a kid. When I still when I changed my son and stuff, I have a whole ramble about it where just seeing his legs, it would remind me of him dragging me across the rug, and I see my own legs. It would give me PTSD, and I just get fucking angry, and then you start crying, and then I'm I can't do nothing about it. Trav, move on, stuff like that, right? But I explained how he changed over years, and that sometimes they have some weird inner battles that they have to come to within. So maybe he was coming to accept himself too, in that time period.
Age mellows people out too, and it makes people kind of able to put things in perspective. I'm a lot different person than I was 10 years ago, or even 15 years ago.
Absolutely.
Even 5 years ago.
Yeah.
There's people are always growing. Or they're not, and I think that it's purposeful that people don't want to grow. They don't want to make realizations, and that they get. Do you ever hear of Arrested Development? Not the television show, but
I don't know
the concept of it.
No.
Well, it's kind of like when somebody starts drinking. You know, like if you start drinking when you're 14, you kind of remain a 14-year-old. You know, until you're, you know, got a certain amount of sobriety or mostly sobriety, and you're able to put some things together in your mind and in your psyche, and you know, able to mature. You know, but I think people are purposeful about not growing. You know, because they're kind of stuck in their ways that way. I think probably if people use like even pot as a crutch,
absolutely,
you know, they kind of get stuck at this certain place in development, and you know, it's great for creativeness, you know, but I don't think it's as good for personal growth as you know, sobriety is.
Right, absolutely. I mean, anything that alters somebody's mind, they're going to be able to use that to, I don't know, run away, like you said, and not grow. Yeah, my dad talked about it, but he never said it was like development, you know, arrested development and stuff like that. It was just like he always explained it was like the elders always said that their minds were stuck in that age frame. So if they're still drinking, they probably never grew from that last day that you saw them, you know. And that's why you see he says that's why you see like a lot of natives. Yeah, like my dad was a good basketball player when he was a kid, so anytime we see his friends, we're like, "What's up, kid? You play basketball?" He's like, "Christ, I'm almost 6 years old." You know, like, hell no. I obviously stopped playing basketball a long time ago, but he's like, it's crazy, like the stories I would hear them say, and like even through the years and stuff, and like now that I got older and more familiar with drugs and alcohol and stuff like that, it's starting to make sense, you know. And it's like, what the heck? And then you just see a lot more people dying, especially around your own age group and stuff like that.
Well, the drugs are different now. You know, I mean,
fentanyl and
fentanyl is. I mean, I just lost a cousin that was 33 years old. You know, and she'll be 33 forever in our minds. You know, I left home when she was a teenager. You know, so in my mind, she'll always be that teenager. You know, and you know, I've never. It's caused so many deaths just in my own community.
Yeah.
And the people are really hurting, you know, particularly the ones that don't use, or, you know, because they're kind of dragging the rest of everybody else along.
Yeah.
The kids are hurting. You know, kids are really pick up on a lot.
Absolutely.
And they're like little sponges, you know, and it's tough to watch them struggle with the consequences of their parents' choices. They don't have any control over whether their ma is gonna, you know, go get high and
leave them there or something.
Yeah, and just like not come back. You know, and it's really, I think, leading to a lot of mental health problems. You know, and you know, well, it's got to be a really strong drugs. You know, like. To make somebody, particularly a mother, because that same, I think it takes advantage of the same receptors that when a mother gives birth, you know, that same, I don't want to call it serotonin,
stuff. Yeah.
but that same batch of, I guess, receptors in the brain is used as when like a mother gives birth to a kid. Well, not a full-grown kid, baby. but I mean, it's that powerful, you know, and to make them realize or not realize that drug doesn't give a shit about you. You know, those people you're doing those drugs with don't give a shit about you. You know,
right.
and to have the kids that, you know, don't and have never used drugs have to realize that, you know, that that's not the parent, you know, something else is in, I guess, that spiritual space. Because there's one thing that I heard, you know, a long time ago, was that when you're drinking or when you're doing drugs, your spirit isn't with you, you know, and it takes a few days for it to come back. But if you're on a binge, like, or drinking every day for 30 years, or doing drugs every day for 10 years,
Right.
that you're probably kind of gone, you're absent from your body, you're absent from, I guess who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of, I guess it gives me comfort to think that, that these people wouldn't be doing this to themselves, wouldn't be doing this to their families, wouldn't be doing this to their kids if their spirit was intact.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, how do we get them to,
because you
to
can't,
make that
you can't
realization?
make them do anything right at the same
Yeah.
time. And that's the
Yeah.
hard part.
Well, I mean, even with my own drinking,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't quit drinking until I wanted to,
Absolutely.
I didn't quit smoking pot. Well, I smoked pot almost every day for like 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
Except if I knew I was going to have a drug test or something coming up.
Oh, right.
Then I'd quit for like 3 weeks and
Mm-hmm.
piss in a cup and, oh my God, be able to spark up when I got out in the car.
It was weird. It was always like 3 days for me. Like I'd give myself diarrhea because I had this weird theory because they said THC stores itself in your fats, so you lose massive amount of weight when you're pooping. So I was like, I'd lose like 10 pounds probably. I'd say in like 3 days or something, at least 10 pounds. And I'm like, yeah, it's because I give myself diarrhea. Like I was proud of it. Like
That's not science.
yeah, it's not. So I was like, it worked though. I got a job. So I've yet to fail a UA. So.
Wow.
Man. So if my son sees this when he's older, hey, you better not be listening to this, man.
Yeah, don't listen to him, kids.
Right. But I was also dumb and I was drunk all the time too, and I was in a state where I was like just fucking feeling bad for myself. You sit there and like you wait for things to like kind of happen for you, and you sit in the past of what I could have, should have done or something like that, and you're just like you say, you just never grow, man. It sucks.
Well, it's easy to get into that, I mean, I don't know. You kind of got to make things happen for yourself too. I mean, there's kind of like a learned helplessness that a lot of people, particularly Native people, are dealing with. We believed the government when they said they'd take care of us, and unfortunately we kind of got separated from our ways but I mean, there's a lot of people that sit around and want somebody else to do everything for them. And, maybe they might spend their entire life sitting around wanting other people to do things for them. But you got to get out and do things for yourself.
Absolutely.
I mean, even learning language is, I think it's so important for, I guess, to be, well, I wouldn't say to be a complete Indian,
Mm-hmm.
but we all have a responsibility to the language. There's a guy called Sonny McDougall that used to teach Ojibwe to us when I was in elementary school. He passed just a few years ago.
Yeah.
But he always used to say every Ojibwe has a responsibility to learn their language. And it's for me it was life altering. Not right away. I mean, I started teaching when I was, I think, 23.
Yeah.
I got a job in Detroit Lakes, and my God, there's a guy called Steve Morbin,
Yeah.
and he was the vice principal there. Kind of the dean of students.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a day that went by that he didn't peek his bald head into my room and see what I was doing.
Yeah.
In the entire time that I was teaching there wasn't a day that I wasn't teaching.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what he expected, to just come in there and see like a free for all, everybody just like hanging out,
Right. Like he didn't trust in you and believe in your skills type thing too, in a way. Huh?
Well, I was 23.
Right. Well, right. But
yeah, but I think that, well, there's kind of a certain amount of, how would you say it? Intellectual white supremacy,
mm-hmm.
whereas they thought that it wasn't a valid area of study.
What time frame was this one? Because
1999, I think I started teaching.
Yeah, it was a lot different too, especially like people's perspectives of natives, when I was a kid too. So
yeah, but there's the guy that was the principal there, like the main principal. His name was Rod Thompson. Mm-hmm. He ended up getting in some shit in Rochester. Oh man! I think he got like involved in some embezzlement shit or sexual harassment shit or something.
Jesus.
But it was kind of crazy. I mean, I didn't hear anything about him for a long time, and then on Channel 4, I saw his name coming up for I forget what, but it was pretty kind of he had on his jumpsuit.
Yeah, that's what happened to that Joe Poirier, who was the principal / I don't know, whatever the heck else he was for Heart of the Earth when I went there.
Oh yeah,
and then they caught him embezzling, and that's why they shut down that survival school down in the cities. Yeah, but I mean,
it used to be right on University, right?
Yeah, right down in Dinkytown.
Yeah.
When I went to 7th grade, they let us go off campus, and I would go around because I was tall. I was already 6 foot in 7th grade, like 6'1". So I'd be like, "Excuse me, ma'am or sir, like, can I blow smoke off you?" They'd give me cigarettes. So I'd be like, "Yes." And my buddy's like, "Why does it work for you?" I was like, "Might be because I'm tall. I don't know." So
yeah,
because I don't know. I was pretty close to 200 pounds too. So I mean,
well, my son, he's I think my 12-year-old son or 13-year-old son now, he's like maybe a half inch taller than me.
Yeah.
And he weighs about, probably about the same as I do, 285, 290. And we went to a wedding in Chicago like last week. One of my wife's family was getting married, mm-hmm. and they had a champagne toast, and like he grabbed he asked Kevin, "Is there alcohol in this?" Yeah. And he was looking at me doing that type of thing. I told him, "Leon, no." Oh, all right. He ended up giving it up, but I mean, yeah, being tall and kind of big is can get you in trouble.
Right. Absolutely. After high school, I ended up moving to Waubun, but I worked at the casino right away.
Oh, I remember
it was my first time, first job. So, but I would go down to the Legion, and they would serve me alcohol because they thought I was old enough because they'd come through the deli and they knew me there. They just never ID'd me. And then I was going there since I was 18. So my 21st birthday, a week before that, I heard they got cameras, that they were carding everyone just for the cameras or whatever. So I didn't show up for a week and just had my buddies buy me some alcohol, and like I'd just drink at home or whatever because I had in a little apartment after a while.
Oh my God. I used to drink there too, and one time I don't was after school, but I ended up drinking and I passed out, and some of the assholes that were staying at my sister's house, because I passed out there, mm-hmm. They fucking put makeup on me. so I had eye makeup on and lipstick on. Oh, man. And like I was all, like when you wake up, you're kind of half drunk still and still feel a little shitty. Mm-hmm. So I woke up and I went down to the Legion. I was sitting in the Legion in Monoman.
Just drinking.
Yeah, drinking that. But I was big too in high school. And like, I had a little mustache and, little beard. But I was sitting in there and people were looking at me and, "Hey, how you doing?" And I went in the bathroom and I looked at myself like, damn. When I said nothing. When I finished my drink and went to my sister's house.
Oh, man. That sucks.
People are awful.
Right? I mean, if I see you there, I'm probably like, "Hey, Rob, you got some shit on your face," Yeah, because they had the bar there, and then they kind of had like the disco way, and then you walk down to the bathrooms kind of to the right?
Yeah.
On that one. Oh. It could have been different too, though. But it was like, oh, man.
Yeah, but you remember that chick Mimi on the Drew Carey show?
A little bit.
But she was like, had that big, huge eye makeup.
Yeah.
Like all the way to her eyebrows. It was kind of like that.
Oh, man. That's
crazy.
It's crazy. Like, I would have been funny to see. I wouldn't have been able not to laugh, Like,
Well,
oh man. But
that's not the worst thing. You know, I remember one time when I was teaching at Cass Lake, you know, no drugs, no alcohol involved. I went into the staff bathroom and, you know, like blew my nose on the way out of the bathroom, and I had a big booger right here. You know, and the bell just rang. And I passed like probably 10 kids, you know, on the way. And like they were all kind of laughing when I went by. What the hell?
little shits. That's good.
Yeah, and then Kevin told me I had a booger trying to crawl back into my nose. You know? That was kind of embarrassing.
Right.
You know?
Oh man. I remember doing sit-ups once at for break or whatever, and then had Rico hold my ankles because we had to do sit-ups for like the fitness test. And I farted right in his face. I couldn't do another sit-up. It was just stinky, just laughing, and everybody just looking at us. So I was like, that was probably one of my most embarrassing moments.
Yeah,
just boog it right in his face. Oh man, he gives me shit when I see him sometimes about it.
One time when I wasn't drunk, but I was like kind of still smoking and stuff, and there's some guys, Timmy and Tommy Goodwin. Do you remember them guys?
I don't know.
Well, I think they used to live in Minneapolis and go around there. They sang with a guy called Joe Rainey.
Okay.
They used to be called Wolf Spirit, but they're the host drum at Apollo in Ponsford one time.
Okay.
And Rob, give us a ride to McDonald's.
Mm-hmm.
And McDonald's in Park Rapids, like 20 miles away, maybe a little more than 20 miles away.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, man, I don't want to do that. You know, come on, we'll give you $10 gas. That's when $10 could buy 4 gallons of gas.
Right.
So I drove them in there, you know, and then they were sitting around eating. And I said, well, come on, let's get back. You know, well, you said you'd give me $10 to bring you here. You didn't say nothing about getting back.
Right.
You know? So I made them give me $10 more, and like they were singing, getting ready to sing. Like, come on, sing with us, you know. And I think it was for grand entry or something, and they had a chair all set up for me. Like I was getting ready to sit down. They pulled that chair out for me, and I was looking up at the stars in the middle of the arena, right in front of the MC stand.
Yeah.
So right in front of everybody in the pole.
Just pull your chair out.
So that was pretty embarrassing too.
Yeah, I bet. Was it probably not as bad as Kevin's when his broke up? Oh man, what was that? In the Cass Lake
at opening
auditorium?
Yeah, that was crazy.
I've never seen a chair like that would break like that.
Oh my god, they couldn't even sing.
Yeah, poor guy.
Well, it wasn't. See, it was like just Joe forgot the drumsticks. And he's, what are we gonna use for drumsticks, Joe? And he like hit the drum with his hand.
Yeah,
and then like immediately after he hit the drum, his chair just kind of disintegrated underneath him.
Oh man, he
my
brought it
God.
upon himself then.
Yeah, that was funny. Oh my god, still laugh about that.
Yeah, Ken brings it up every time I see him too. He's like, remember when Ken broke right through that chair? I'm like, oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, everybody was there that day. Remembers that.
And then he reminds me of the baseball time when I wasn't gonna swing, but then I end up swinging and hit the ball, and then I was like, what the hell am I doing? And all of a sudden I'm just falling and right in front of everybody. And I get told after the game, oh, nice try, man. It was embarrassing, but you just dust yourself off. And I'm like, oh, this sucks.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing too, is that, the ability to joke about yourself and not take yourself too seriously can't be undervalued,
Absolutely.
If you see people that take themselves too seriously, always crabby.
Yeah.
Always somebody doing something that they don't like,
Too much stress in life to be that fucking crabby,
Oh my God. To want that much control over other people, or even to not be able to make a joke, I think that's what saved a lot of Indian people, if we didn't have our humor, if we couldn't make jokes.
Be some crabby motherfuckers, man.
Oh, or crying all the time.
Yep, crying too.
But the case with me is I do it at the worst time possible. Like if something really fucked up happens, I'll make a joke. And make people laugh, fucking around, you know. And, but it's kind of fucked up. But I have to, you know. I mean, because it kind of breaks the tension, you know. It makes shit not feel as bad as it is.
Hell yeah, makes it a lot easier to do if you want to.
That's like it's horrible, but you know, but I'm usually the one that does it. Or if it's kind of like a subject that people have a hard time with, you know, like I don't know, you know, I always kind of try to lighten the mood because I don't know, maybe I'm just horrible at sitting in my own uncomfortability with things.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think I'm the same way too, but it just, I don't know. I kind of grew up like a class clown too at the same time. You know, I was making jokes, making people laugh and stuff like that. Just because you don't get, sometimes you don't get the attention, so you kind of supplement for it. But then at the same time, you just like making people feel good, you know, good inside when they're having a hard time. So. Yeah.
But damn, you get you in trouble sometimes. You get you some dirty looks.
Like, fuck that guy. Don't get over it. Just kidding.
And then, well, a lot of times the shit that's funny is pretty inappropriate.
It is, but like you said, man, there's a time and a place for being serious. There's a time and place for joking too, I guess. But I mean, I'd rather hear a joke any time of the day, you know, instead of hearing some negative stuff, because, you know, that negativity spreads so freaking easy. So,
well, and there's enough of it out there. You know what I mean? Everybody always got something to say, you know. And it's not always positive, you know. It's really hard to kind of turn that around in your own thinking, you know, especially like I grew up, and I think it was my dad, because his dad went to school in Deer River.
Yeah.
And it was really hard for I think Native people to go to that school at the time. And he heard a lot of negativity in that school, you know, and I think probably a lot of negativity around home. Mm-hmm. And it kind of gets into your thinking, you know, and it's easy to be negative.
Absolutely.
But it's hard to start kind of to keep yourself from saying negative things, or to thinking negatively. Like if you're just going to think about something negative, you know, try to think about 4 things that are positive or something like that. Or if you're going to say something that's negative, try to say 3 things or 4 things that are positive.
Absolutely.
And so if you see me out there being really quiet, I'm struggling to think of positive things to say.
I hear you there, man. Like, yeah, they're always like, you're so quiet. And a lot of times it's like, I'm just thinking what not to say. So, like,
fuck you.
But, you know, always turn it into a joke, though. So, yeah. But I guess I get that from my father, too. He's pretty good on that. Almost all Native people are, though, man.
So gotta be.
Funniest people never showed up on a stage, so
yeah.
Oh man, I think that's awesome. They're going to be doing a lot of that language stuff, because you used to write like children's books and stuff too for in Ojibwe for like Nigani and stuff too, right?
Well, a lot of curriculum writing, not necessarily children's books, but I mean, I wrote science and social studies curriculum for 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th grade.
Yeah.
So it was not really the funnest things to write about, but it kind of pushed me to learn a lot of language. Like, I don't know, I was just thinking about one thing I wrote a while back that was on the life cycle of wild rice, you know. I think I was just thinking about this because we were talking about it in my 2nd year class, you know, Ojibwe at school. And, you know, it forces you to learn how the language is put together, because you get to see the smaller parts of the word that hold meaning. And it's in those smaller parts of the words that hold meaning that a lot of the way that Ojibwe people, like older Ojibwe people, elders that are speakers, hold their worldview. And that's kind of the key to, I think, being able to relate culturally to yourself. And it's really one of the most fulfilling parts about being a language student. I still consider myself a language student, because I mean, I'm always making realizations, and I'm always, learning from the language, learning about life even, even that word bimodesy. Odyssey is kind of like a part that means to have a certain characteristic, like Gige Wadesy is like, Gige is kind of like kind. When they talk about Gige Money-do, they're talking about that kind spirit, the creator. But Bim means like to go by. Bimodesy is like kind of to have the characteristic of going by. So like your life is just kind of going by, or he's going by in his life. It's kind of what I get from that. It's kind of.
It's so complex, man. I mean, like we got the Moshonis book there, and then like kind of they break down some of those too, like some words, like simple words like mine gun and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah,
like, it's way more complex than like when I was a kid, and because I never thought about that kind of stuff. Like I didn't appreciate it, and then when you get older and you see like some of the hard work that goes into it, and how you have to also study it as well, and you get to know those words piece by piece and stuff like that. It's like there's way more to it than some people realize.
I don't know. I think he's kind of, I guess, a
little bastard,
but he's kind of like fallen out of favor with a lot of people because he's done some bad things. But I learned a lot from Earl Nyholm. I think his name is Ochin Gwenigan now. He ended up being a pedophile.
Yeah.
And that's really sad. But, he kind of showed me how a lot of words break down, and, one of the things he taught me too is that there's nobody that's all bad and there's nobody that's all good either, and that there's balance in everything. And it's like one of the things I try to remember, especially if I catch myself trying to judge somebody, and then
it's so easy to do.
Like so. No, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just a matter of like trying to make yourself feel better about yourself, and like, I kind of let myself go for the past year, and I gained 30 pounds. Look at that fucker over there.
The big tubby bastard. But
fucker's a lot fatter than me.
Yeah. But let's say the rules were different, though. Like you lost a massive amount of weight. They'd be like, "What kind of drugs are they on?" Stuff like that.
Oh yeah, I've been through that too. I mean, I remember like 8 years ago. I mean, I was kind of at the bottom. I mean, I was really having a hard time. I was struggling.
Yeah.
My ex-wife had started using drugs, like hard drugs.
Yeah.
And in order to get hold of money that I was making, she called the cops on me and reported a domestic that never happened. And she was trying to hit I was making like, I think $800 a week. And she was trying to tell the judge that she needed $1,000 a week from me.
Holy shit.
But it was more, and that just kind of showed that it was more about money than me, because, she really wasn't there. But I was kind of at my lowest, when something like that happens, you feel really betrayed, and betrayal is strong, I mean, it's
especially to somebody you love and trust so much.
Well, that's why I think it's because it comes from somebody you trust. And I was like really low, I was like probably as depressed as I've ever been,
I could tell when I'd seen you at like Walmart, because I worked at Walmart at that time too, and I'd see you on the benches sometimes. Hey Rob, how you doing? And you kind of look at the look in your face compared to like now, or when I knew you in Cass Lake and stuff like that. When I went to school there, was a lot different. It was like night and day. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
See you now, so full of it. Like you even looked more like pale, I guess, too, in comparison.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh man, I hope he's doing all right.
Well, I wasn't on dope. But. I mean, that too, like, I used to work out, there's a guy called Terry Roy. He was the boxing coach at Twin Lakes, and I used to go over there, to the boxing center, and like, I just hurt, and I'd go work out for 2 hours and just get it all out for that day. Because I know if I didn't, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I'd be up all night thinking about some bullshit.
Yeah, and get angry or something.
Yeah, and so, I'd take my kids with me. My 12-year-old was 4, 3 or 4 at the time. He'd come with me, and he'd be. I remember one time I got a little picture of him. He said, "Watch, I'm gonna work this heavy bag." And he had, boxing gloves on that covered him to his elbows. He punched the bag and it almost knocked him over.
Yeah.
But it was kind of like exercise to the point where it was almost unhealthy. Just because I was hurting that much, and I kind of had to make the pain a little bit real. Some people, I suppose, younger kids kind of cut themselves to make the pain real. But I wasn't gonna do that, and I wasn't trying to drink, and I wasn't trying to do drugs. So the only thing that's left that makes me feel better, or that made me feel better at the time, was exercise.
Yeah.
So I did it to excess, and I found out later that even that is like indicative of an eating disorder. So, and I'm finding out more and more about like an eating disorder, food addiction that I have. And like we were talking about earlier, that wheat and sugar are, addictive as hell. Even if you try like no wheat, like just rice or something for a week, no sugar, even like fake sugar.
Yep.
Try that for a week and see how you feel, and pay attention to how you eat. It's almost like if you do that for a week, it's almost like evidence itself of sugar and wheat
how much
addiction.
it weighs you down,
Yeah, or how much let's see, about a month ago, I had one of those oatmeal pies, a Little Debbie oatmeal pie.
Yeah.
And I ate it. I went and sat down and watching TV for a while, and everybody else was in bed. I think I was watching football or something. And pretty soon I caught myself getting up and grabbing another one, and grabbing a Kind bar, grabbing a Cliff bar.
Hell yeah.
So maybe that's just me, but
Same
I
thing.
realized that's kind of a problem that I have, is wheat and sugar, and always finding out new stuff about myself, always trying to find out new things about myself and get healthier.
Oh yeah. It's probably just going to be a new challenge for you then, huh?
Oh yeah.
Challenges are awesome. Setting up small goals to try to stay away from that crap, because I know I have a problem too. Just last night I had a donut attack, so I ate 2 before I smacked myself and made myself stop. So, but it was like after a workout, so I get real hungry after any workouts because my body's trying to recover.
Well, and your sugar's low.
Yep, sugar's low and stuff. It was like, oh man. So I had to smack myself, make myself get out of there, and
Yeah. Well, whey protein.
Whey proteins. Yeah, but
that's kind of sweet too, and it could get you going.
Especially those shake things, man. They make me crave them, so I had to stop that stuff too. So I just do it from the chicken, from the beef, from tuna, stuff like that.
All about the meat, huh?
Yep, got the meats. We're our meat. but doing a lot more of the rice stuff too. But even that, it's like I can eat a shit ton of rice.
My youngest, oh my god! So we go to the I call it super buffet once in a while, and he'll go in there. He'll have like 3-4 plates of fried rice, like just look like a beaver house. Holy shit! Then he'll start eating. Well, his brother, my oldest, he's 27 now. He's doing great. He's like 6'9".
Yeah, he's a big kid.
He weighs like 270.
Yeah, pretty lean.
Yeah. But this kid weighs 270 now, and he's about probably 6'5". He's bigger than Junior was when Junior was that age.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that kid. He's hilarious. Oh.
Is he as active as you guys were, or
no, not nearly. You know, I mean, kids now are different. You know, I mean, even when you were growing up, you know, the internet and the ability to just go in and play games with your friends has changed kids. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, they started introducing that around middle school, high school, but we never had access to it, so I never got to do it. I was just outside playing basketball or football or something.
See, that's the difference too. You know what I mean? Because there's, well, you know, people used to drink probably just as much pop and eat just as much chips, but it's while you were playing ball or after you get done playing ball. You know, like a bunch of kids go to the store and team up and buy a bunch of munchies.
Oh yeah, hell yeah!
Especially if you've been smoking a lot of pot.
Absolutely.
But you know, I mean, it's after you're active. You know, intense activity for like 2-3 hours at a time.
Yeah, because those muscle tissues need to recover. So
yeah, well, I mean, right when the streetlights turn on, you usually, you know, but you know, kids now are different. They get the same amount of pop, same amount of chips. But the only things active are their thumbs and fingers, you know. So that's hard.
Thank you.
But I'll try to get him into lifting, you know.
Well, yeah.
But I don't want it too quick because he's growing so fast. So nowhere near his body weight. You know,
Right.
and I don't think he would be able to anyway. Because I mean,
who was that football player? I think he played with the Vikings for a little while. All he would do was calisthenics. I think Mike Tyson did too. But
Herschel Walker.
Yeah. Thousands of them. I remember that's what I couldn't lift weights when I was younger. I didn't like lifting weights as much until like 10th grade or something like that. But
yeah. Well, I mean, when you have growth plates in your bones and in between your joints, and I mean, I'm glad that I wasn't lifting as hard when I was younger because
you can break stuff, can't you?
Well, that and like I used to get growing pains in my legs so bad. Oh my God, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and it wasn't cramps because
just like pain, crying and stuff.
Oh my God, stretching your tendons and shit. Holy cow! And I think my youngest gets that now, and he's not even that active.
Right, that sucks. Yeah, I remember I grew like to almost as tall as I am now over a summer, and yeah, that was the worst summer of my life. I was like 5'2". Then after the summer, I was 6'1". Like every night, I was like crying, like I can't get rid of these pain. You know, it was like just curled up in a ball until you fall asleep eventually or something.
Yeah, what my son? I mean, he's got, you know how like chubby dudes got vertical stretch marks. He's got horizontal stretch marks on his back, you know, from growing so fast.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that poor kid. His legs must hurt all the time.
Right. Oh man. And I don't know what can you get to help treat that. You just give them like Tylenol or something.
Ibuprofen. Something. I don't know. You know, I mean, ibuprofen is just for inflammation. I don't know if it's inflammation that does that.
My parents like rubbed like mossy stuff on my knees, but that didn't really seem to help. So I don't know what the heck because it was such a long time ago. I was like, what's that, 15 years ago now, you know, and 16, 17, 18 years ago now, you know?
Yeah, it's getting old, Travis. And I was teaching when we were in high school. So.
Right. And I don't know. I did like that time. I was into basketball and all that stuff, but I'm not as into sports as I used to be. Like I'll go watch it, but I just can't watch it on TV for whatever reason. It's
God, I think that's my new escape, you know, and that's why I can't I can't have wheat or sugar. Otherwise I'll be shoving food in my face while I'm watching TV.
Yeah.
You know, and I remember I used to watch probably maybe 30 hours of football a week during football season, all the way up to January.
Yeah. That's how I was when I was a kid, man. Always locked in.
Oh yeah. But I mean, even up to like probably a few years ago, but like now I'd rather go watch a live game than anything, you know.
Oh hell yeah.
Even a high school game. My nephew was playing, and he was pretty good, but he just couldn't get grades, you know.
Yeah. Who was he playing for? Like
Monoman.
Are they the Thunderhawks or something?
Thunderbirds.
I heard they were having some controversy with their logo or something from the state, and I was like, "That's dumb. They're a native school. Leave them alone."
Well, technically, but I mean, I remember even when I was going to school there, it was kind of tough for Indian kids.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, the prevailing attitude was, you know, it was late 80s. I started 7th grade in 1987. I graduated from high school in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to start having Native history classes taught by a white dude, you know, because they couldn't have any Indians in the school at the time.
Right.
You know, but that was kind of like the thought at the time. But it's hard. But I mean, just look at now. You know, I mean, there's been so much progress as far as equity in schools. You know, what I'd like to see though eventually would be have Native history taught from a Native point of view be just as valid and get the same amount of credit as, you know, like American history.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of times too, it's they're on complete opposite, you know, sides. Even now, if I think about some of the books that I read, and some of the books I had to read for U.S. history from discovery up to 1870 or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was 1870 or 1855 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But there was just kind of a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
You know? And then you look at books like Troyer's a good writer, Tony.
Oh yeah. And Anton, right?
Yeah.
I just finished that one book, which, well, I can't remember how what you want to know about natives or something.
Oh
like
yeah,
that? Yeah. I can't remember the exact title. I butchered it. My bad.
But you're afraid to ask. Everything you wanted to know about Indians, but you were afraid to ask.
Yeah, that one. It's a really good book. If anybody wants to read that one, obviously go check it out.
I'm working on. See, I've started a while ago, you know, and I'll get going on something. But then I'll get a couple of chapters in. There's one, and I think the lady is like what do they call him? A pretendian.
Yeah.
What the heck's her name? Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz.
Okay.
You know, but it's called Indigenous Peoples' History of the United States. It's kind of in the same vein as the Zinn book, you know, People's History of the United States. Okay. That's it. If you want to get kind of a realistic look at American history, that'd be the first place I'd look if I were kind of new to it.
Okay. Again, what was that one again?
People's History of the United States.
People's History
by Howard Zinn.
Howard Zinn.
And then Indigenous People's History of the United States by Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz. Okay. You know, but I'm always reading something. You know, I mean,
are these like actual like conflicts that happen in the United States, or was like perspectives from like natives and stuff too?
I think a lot of it's both really. I'm kind of excited about that movie that's coming out in October.
Which one is that?
October 20th. I just read the book.
Oh man.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay.
You know, I mean, I saw it coming out, and I bought like 4 books. I read 2 of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but that's a pretty good book. It's how do they call it? I don't want to call it historical fiction because it's like a historical narrative rather.
Okay.
But it's really good. It's about how like there was a bunch. Well, the Osage, they kind of got fucked. You know, and they ended up buying some land together, and was kind of their reservation. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of useless land. You know, it was like rocky, couldn't grow shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I think they had cattle that, you know, but it wasn't really good for grazing because much wouldn't grow there. Mm-hmm. Not much would grow there, I should say.
Okay.
And
like infertile soil type stuff.
Yeah, and they ended up finding oil there.
Oh shit! Yeah.
So. Like oil barons and other people were buying leases from them, and they were like the richest tribe or the richest people in the world per capita at the time.
Yeah, but they were still not getting as much as they could have and stuff.
Probably, but you know, the Americans always find a way to lie, cheat, steal, murder.
Right. The first African American baroness, she was like a young girl, but she was awarded a plot of land because even though you were a slave and you're not native, at this time when you became free, you were given a reservation pretty much too, like a lot of land, almost like a Native American, right? Even though they were African American, so they gave her a lot of land, and they're like, the dad was going to just sell it because he didn't. He's like, the land's infertile. I think this was out in Oklahoma too. It was like, and it turned out that there was oil there, and she became rich overnight. And then like the white people were trying to say that she was incompetent because of the color of her skin, so they were going to take all that shit, and she ended up dying at a young age. But
that's a lot of what happened to all the. I don't want to say. I want to get the tribe right.
Yeah.
I can't remember the tribe.
Yeah,
but I mean that happened to them, and they're like really rich, and like that's how they would get guardians, you know, that would basically funnel money to themselves.
Okay. It'd be awesome, and I guess if you were them, you know, and stuff like that. But it's like, oh man. But then, like, what kind of things you would have faced at that time too, like that. You know, the girl facing white people trying to steal her rights and trying to say she was incompetent just based off of that and lack of education and all this kind of jazz. But I guess you would have like W.E.B. Du Bois and all those guys came up and like defended her and was like, you know, like that isn't right. And then I guess that helped a lot of people see that it wasn't right. She had like a bunch of like parties and shit like that.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So,
well, I mean, if you were a young person and you became rich overnight, what else would you do?
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, I would have too, but they said that like she just magically disappeared one time, basically. So I was like, well, what the hell happened there? You know? So
magic.
Yeah, I think they had a movie come out recently too about it last few years. So it's pretty cool, I guess. But then there's that. Did you hear about what the Washington Commanders are getting sued again by that Native tribe down there or something like that? And now like a bunch of Republicans are coming, like I see them like Twitter or something like that, and they're like, it's white liberals.
I saw it, but it was just, it's kind of, I don't know, I suppose the ones that want to be, you know, like probably, I would venture to say that they probably aren't culturally connected. They probably don't know their language. They probably don't know much about their own tradition. Mm-hmm. But they'll be your Indian, and they'll let you talk shit about them, mm-hmm. Or mock them, you know. And I don't know. It's pretty crazy to me, you know, that it's almost really uncanny how often those type of Indians that have never been interested in their own culture and language are the type that defend that type of bullshit.
Yeah. I thought they were just going for a money grab, but it discredits like all the hard work of all the people that protested this stuff, you know, that's been going on for fucking 50 years, you know, how many years. It's been a long time. But then you see people on the internet saying that it's just white Democrats that wanted the call that called for the mascot, not actual natives. And it's like, that's simply not true, because there's a lot of natives that hate that shit, you know, like you don't know, you weren't there, and you haven't seen anybody struggle or protest and go through a battle of getting that taken down, you know, and it sucks.
Well, I think too, you know, I mean, what the heck? I think Troyer too, in one of his videos, brings up, there's a song called Redneck Woman by, I don't know, what was it? Gretchen Wilson, maybe? Some country singer anyway. Mm-hmm. And she refers to herself that way, right? Mm-hmm. But if you call any white woman a redneck woman, do you think they'll be, you know, like find that, you know, as like acceptable as that one lady would?
It probably depends on what bar you go to, maybe.
For sure. But you know, I mean, it's probably the same way, you know. I mean, I have a hard time finding redskin as a thing I want to be called. Mm-hmm. You know, I remember in high school, I was called a redskin once. I was like the only native kid in like the college prep classes, and it was in chemistry one year, you know, instead of physical science, and they're fucking farmers. I think one the guy's name was Sweep, Chad Sweep. But he started talking shit about Redskins, you know, and I was just like, man, fuck you.
Mhm.
And what you gonna do about it? You know what? Why don't you just fucking lick me with that shit? I told him.
Okay. Oh, just kidding.
No, I think he said something like, I don't know, your ass is so fat, I don't know if I'd be able to find where. And I said, you know what you can do? You can fucking start on the outside and work your way in, bitch.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that pretty clearly because I was pretty pissed off, you know.
Right.
And I looked up there, and the guy, the chemistry teacher's name was August Ulrich.
Yeah.
And he was kind of laughing too about the fucking Redskin crack, and fucking pissed me off. You know, so that's the kind of high school I went to, you know. And, you know, there was a lot of the people too. I mean, our mascot in high school was Indians. And there were a lot of people that defended it. But at the same time, at White Earth, there's always been kind of a dearth of culture, you know. And I think there was never, you know, as far as I remember, the most significant cultural event, you know, that I can recall is when they found one of our ceremonial drums in a church. Yeah. And they woke it back up, you know, and that's one of the drums that we use twice a year, you know, and I'm on that drum, but it's like, you know, I remember going to the powwow all the time when I was a kid, but that's kind of like, you know, like some people call it the powwow show. You know? Yeah. And I know like a lot of people get stuff out of it, you know, like they get stuff spiritually, they want to feel connected, you know, but it's kind of like its roots are more in rodeo than in
actual
Ojibwe tradition, you know. And I heard a story too once that's what they would let people do, and like people that lived in the city were permitted to do that, and were kind of feeling, I think, a little bit removed from our own custom, and they started doing that, you know, and started, you know, celebrating that way. So it is kind of like have its roots with Buffalo Bill Cody's Wild West Show and rodeo, and kind of, you know, like Indians too, you know. So it's kind of like an amalgamation of non-Indian custom and some Indian custom, right? And there are a lot of like, you know, sacred items people bring there. You know, feathers are sacred; they all have spirits. You know,
absolutely. Dream catchers, all those things. Yeah, like I grew up down. Hold on 1 second, just excuse a bit. But I grew up down in the cities though. Like up to that point, like before you've seen me, I grew up in the cities before that. Lived there my whole life, you know. At that time, up so 0 to 16, you know, and I got a different perspective of life, right? And you see like some of those natives down there, and I mean they become a product of their environment too, you know. There's just gangs, there's drugs, there's, you know, everybody's almost up to no good, you know, and there's not as much cultural stuff as there could be. But there was like Ona Kingbird, she passed away a few years ago too, rest in peace to her. And she was the language teacher for Ojibwe down there, because I think she grew up in Red Lake or whatever, so at that survival school anyways. But I think the rest of the curriculum was probably like a joke, you know, compared to a regular school, I guess, a normal school. But, you know, those language classes were some of the best ones. Like we had a Lakota one too. Velma, I can't remember her last name, but she taught us the words like wink day and stuff like that. What is that, faggot in English? But, you know, people that were homosexual were held in a high regard too, in Native status in some of them, you know. So
homophobia is like really new, you know, to Native cultures, and I think that's kind of a lot of fear-based stuff, you know. And it's pretty, I don't know, it's kind of, you know, like there've always been, the attitude has always been kind of like one of individual autonomy. You can do whatever you want, basically. But it's been kind of corrupted, you know, in a way. And I think that has a lot to do with people going to boarding schools and stuff like that. And kind of, I think people being more and more negative and that's just not our way. It's kind of weird, but it's become kind of the norm too.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of odd. I mean, it was so much so that I think like one of my cousins ended up going away for like 20 years and came back in leather pants.
Yeah.
And he came over to my grandma's one time when me and my sister were sitting there, kind of visiting my grandma, and my grandma said something to him. You're wearing leather pants. Yeah, leather's so versatile. And it, like, but that always kind of stuck out to me too. Is like, he probably, if he was around now, he probably would have never had to go away to be who he was.
Right.
And that's, I think, I mean, it's like so many gay dudes like know how to fight. And you wouldn't think that would be the case, but
they probably had to grow up fighting.
They got to fight all the time, Tough as shit, bro.
Hell yeah. Because we had a gay uncle, and he'd be like the butt end of the joke. They'd be like, to insult one of the other relatives, be like, you're like your Uncle David, or you're like David, or something, And he's just this big, he's like 6'8", 6'9", big Indian dude, but he, like wieners. So, like, I wouldn't discriminate against them. I grew up with people that are gay, some of the greatest people, and they can joke about it and stuff like that. And I just never understood it growing up, like why he couldn't be around, and it's like, hopefully their perspective changed. Like, wouldn't you want to just see your brother as opposed to be like, forget that gay guy or type stuff, what I mean? So
it's definitely not a choice, because who would choose that? Get fucked around with all the time, have to fight all the time. Get excluded by some of your family, and if you think about some of the gay dudes you might even know, that's definitely not a choice.
Right? You're gonna love who you're gonna love.
Yeah.
But having long hair was a stigma when we were growing up.
Oh yeah.
You remember Kenny? My little brother, he has really long hair. He started growing it out when we were in elementary, and he hasn't cut it since, right? But he would always have to fight somebody. They'd call him a little girl, or like call him a bitch because they thought he was weak because he had long hair. No, that dude will beat you up.
Oh yeah,
he's like choking kids, beating up. They're like, "Why is your brother so mean?" I was like, "Were you talking shit to him about his hair?" Like, he told me about it already. That's my little brother, obviously. So it's like, you treat him normal, like a normal person. He won't beat you up. So,
perfect case of fuck around and find out.
Right? Absolutely. And he does. He still don't take shit from nobody and stuff like that. Obviously, which is good. And stuff like that.
But he's. I remember him when he was in high school. Pretty mellow guy, and never looked for any trouble.
Absolutely not.
But he wasn't going to run away from it either.
No, hell no. He's like, I'm gonna. Even if they can beat me up, you know what? If I punch him once or twice, at least I'm okay with that. So, but I haven't heard of a lot of fights that he lost, or hardly any. So they were. I always love him, but we were always fighting at the same time at home too. So I think that's why he was so good at fighting.
You made him tougher.
Yeah, I'm not proud of it, but we all have our own problems. So different things we have to overcome in life, and I guess that's the big part of it, And I seen, like, I brought up some of those kids that like didn't take school seriously and stuff, and I see some of them now. They went back, got GEDs, and some of them did graduate like 5 years after they were supposed to and stuff. Like, I see them graduate with my little sister. I was like, hey, I know that guy. Like, he's supposed to graduate with me. They end up
I don't know. I tell the kids I work with every day just about that. Over your lifetime, your high school diploma is going to be worth $1 million.
Yep.
It's a difference between, sweeping the floor for, $8 an hour, or running a cashier cage for, 15.
Right. Hell yeah.
So it's worth something,
At least get that, if you're gonna, even if you quit school after that, like, at least do good in high school, at least get a degree or your diploma there. So
it's hard, one of the things too is that there's always been kind of a stigma with education in Indian communities, I haven't heard it recently, but I remember when I was a kid, people used to talk about, well, just want to be white because you're doing good in school. No, I just want to do good in school because I want to do good in school. I want to know some shit, man.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like you see all that cool shit happening out around us, like we could be a part of that. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah. Like I said, though, but a lot of it is, they're more oppressed and, there's, like you said, sometimes when the father's not involved, sometimes the kid being when they're being affected by drugs and stuff, it could be just littered with abuse and, people just not giving a shit, It sucks.
It's hard. I mean, I worked with kids, I think that I work with some kids that have lost their dad, and I think it was before they can even remember, but
yeah,
there's just kind of like that desire for them to have kind of a positive male role model, and to do things that are, just to have somebody around and somebody that cares, and it's tough. It's so tough to watch, kids struggle with that. Or even a lot of kids don't even know a positive adult, or have a positive influence in their life, and that's so important. I mean, I used to run a mentoring program for the University of Minnesota through 4-H at White Earth. And some of the things that we'd go down, I had to go down to Chevy Chase, Maryland, 4-H, J.C. Penney, like the guy that owned the stores.
Yep.
He had a plantation in Chevy Chase, Maryland.
Yeah.
And he donated it to 4-H.
Nice.
So it's huge.
But
I went down there for a few meetings and stayed at a plantation. And it was, we'd go down there and there'd be all this mentoring curriculum that you have to go through and everything. But it kind of illustrated too that the more positive influences, adult influences that a kid has in their life, the more likely they are to stay in school, the more likely they are to make better choices and to think about things,
absolutely.
That's one of the things I always try to tell kids, especially when they're leaving for the weekend. Try to make good choices,
Right.
try to do what's right, help somebody out if you can, and maybe I might, be able to affect one or two to do something maybe a little bit better to help somebody out. But
Right.
I'm not counting on it, but I try to get them to think about that type of thing.
You were one of my favorite teachers when I was in school because it was you treated everybody equally, and you didn't favor people. You didn't play any of that jazz, and you could tell that you cared, you know what I mean? Sometimes you just tell that some teachers are just there, and sometimes that might steer some people away from school too,
Yeah. Well, or if you're, a teacher, to get to know your kids, the ones you're working with. And I care deeply about every kid I've ever worked with, and it's kind of, really hurts to see some of them, what they do with their lives, and I don't know, I say something to some of them that they're having a hard time, it's you can always, do something positive, do something for yourself. And then if they're having a hard time with drugs or something like that, and I see them, I make sure and say hi to them and tell them that, you aren't your choices. You can change your life.
Absolutely.
And I hope that they know that I care about them, but it's hard to watch a lot of kids too. I mean, I've seen a lot of kids that have a lot of potential and are really smart, do some stupid shit,
Easy to do.
Oh yeah. I mean, there have been a few times myself that one or two choices I'd be, living a totally different life,
Yeah.
But it only takes a couple seconds to fuck up your life, or less than a second to fuck up your life, all the investment you made in yourself, as far as trying to learn stuff and trying to, even have social capital and be good to people, be kind to people, can be fucked up in like a split second.
Oh yeah.
You know, so it's pretty important to you know, think about things before you act and try to make good choices. That's what I always tell the kids.
Heck yeah.
One of them asked me last year, how come you always tell us to try to make good choices? Well, if it isn't pretty obvious, if I don't want you to make good choices, it's because I want you to make good choices, you know? And they're kind of, I think some of them get kind of annoyed with me because...
you're when you're a kid, from that perspective, you're like a stubborn knucklehead in some sense. You know, you're just like, I don't need to listen to anybody. They don't know. You just the simple answer is that they just haven't experienced it yet. When they get older and they finally freaking see it, they're like, that's what that cool dude told me. You know, that's why he was always telling me to be this or that.
I don't know. I've made a whole lot of shitty choices in my life, and you know, I try to be more thoughtful than I used to be. And I think that's what I think we could probably close up with that. You know, just try to be good to people and make good choices, and you know,
stay away from those drugs. I mean, that's probably one of the harder things to do. You know, but
the hard drugs. You know, I mean, there is kind of a medicinal quality to weed.
Yeah. It's anti-inflammatory. It's a bunch of different things that can help somebody. Somebody with hard time eating food sometimes, you know, like that might help them eat. And, oh man, it's just when it becomes something that consumes you and takes over your day is when it's a bad thing, you know.
Yeah, if it's like the first thing you do when you wake up and the last thing you do when you go to sleep, so you can eat and you know, I mean, so you shouldn't need it to live your life.
Absolutely.
You know, and I'd rather see kids not get into it, you know, until they are 21 or older. I mean, 25 preferably, because that's when your mind is done developing.
Yeah, fully developed and stuff. Heck yeah. I mean, when was for me, like, it started out at a young age too, you know, my cousins, they'd have the pot and stuff like that. I'd be 8 years old.
If I think about it, even like the first time I actually smoked a joint was 9, but I remember, I think before that, even smoking roaches out of my dad's ashtray in his truck.
Cigarette butts too sometimes. It's crazy.
I never cared for cigarettes, but weed got to me first.
Better that. I'd rather smoke weed than freaking smoke cigarettes, so that's the truth for me, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah.
You got to be straight edge here.
Yeah.
It's hard to, you know, I mean, people think it's hard, but I mean, I'd rather do this than, you know, I don't think I could find weed that's like of the same potency as it was when I was smoking it a lot. You know, I think swag is harder to find now than it was then. You
Unless if you do like some homegrown processes, you know, where it's exposed more to the UV rays, because a lot of the things they have them like isolated and stuff. So that's why the THC grows in higher amounts and stuff. They're saying.
I think part of it too is probably hydroponics.
Hydroponics, yeah.
Yeah, have everything they need, you know, to just suck up the hydro and or the liquid and
be the best it could be.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Heck yeah, because there's a lot of science behind it too. It's crazy how in depth they go on why they grow it a certain way and stuff too. So.
Well, and the thing too is that your brain has cannabinol receptors, you know, and it's almost like if it wasn't meant to be used, it wouldn't grow.
Right.
And your brain wouldn't have those receptors.
Right. Because we do get hemp that or marijuana that does grow naturally and stuff like that too. So
yeah, but
who was the first one to discover? They said it was like some Japanese guy would burn it as like an incense, and then he figured it got him high. Then he was like, "Oh my god, we can get stoned off this thing."
Even before that, before I was smoking roaches, I think I remember being in my cousin Wayne Bellinger's trailer house. You know, he passed when I was 16 too. But and like him and his buddies used to smoke a lot of weed, and he'd sit around playing his guitar, and then just sit around over there and visit.
Yeah.
And I'd be sitting there and inside the weed cloud.
Just get secondhand smoke.
I don't know if contact highs are possible, but I do remember feeling pretty good over there.
It was after school once. We were going to go play open gym in Bemidji here with Kevin Jackson, Thomas Heesers, and I believe the Cloud Brothers. No, there's some other people. I can't remember who it was. Might be Ty Butcher and somebody. But anyways, they were smoking in the room, and then I was like, I don't smoke weed. I take this stuff seriously. I want to play basketball and stuff like that. So I didn't drink, and I quit smoking pot because I smoked pot when I was in like middle school and stuff. And I was like, I want to play basketball if I get, and get into that stuff. So they were like, oh, okay, whatever. But I just felt like, I got to go lay down. And they were like making fun of me that I got so high from the secondhand smoke or something. Just
I mean, I think about some of those guys even, I mean, split second choices, changing lives, Dom. I like maybe a week before he passed, he messaged me on Facebook Messenger and asked me to help him because he had his car at a shop, and I went and pulled it back to his house for him. And I mean, I just thought that I didn't think it was after Tristan had passed.
Yeah, because he passed the year right before, right?
Yeah, and I didn't think that would be the last time I saw him. But I mean, those two were inseparable, and it must have been almost like missing a piece of himself, man, those are some good kids.
Yeah, that Danny boy, Dan Pacheco, he was close to those guys too, wasn't he?
Yeah,
and he was hurting real bad too. I could only imagine,
Is he still around?
I don't remember. I thought he might have passed.
Dang.
Yeah, it's so many people, man.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to count how many students I've lost, because I think it's more than 50. But to violent means and shit like that.
Drugs. I just lost their cousin here recently too, Isabella. She was the same age as me, and she ended up overdosing. They just had a memorial for my aunt and my grandpa and grandma Belcourt, Clyde Belcourt, Peggy Belcourt, and Tanya. She overdosed last year, but like when she overdosed, our cousin overdosed like a couple days after and stuff too. And it's like, man, fucking drugs, dude. It sucks.
Yeah, I mean, when I was growing up, I mean, the worst thing you could do was probably weed, weed and drinking.
Yeah.
I'd always say drinking was worse than weed. But I mean, I remember like a couple of times like sparking a joint because I wasn't that much. Well, that was before I really, really started drinking. And can you take that outside? We're outside in a fucking barn, like at somebody's farm, and like you're like, I was looking at him like, what the fuck for?
It smells like cow shit in here.
Yeah, I think it was the Quonset hut, and they had a bunch of equipment in there.
Okay,
but they just didn't want it inside. So me and this guy called Adam Spaeth went outside and smoked the weed. Came back in, and getting cotton mouth, so I had a beer. But it was kind of taboo, I suppose, among the conservative Christian population around there.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that was kind of fallout from the 60s and pot being associated with the counterculture, with like a revolution and, like producing revolutionary thinkers.
Yeah. I mean, it was still looked down upon when I was even going to school, and it was both sides were kind of looking down on it, Democrats and Republicans together, and it was like we just came to an agreement that like what was their thing? There was a commercial where it was like one joint is as bad as over a pack of cigarettes, and they're like, look at that, it fucks your lungs up way more. Like that was their whole justification of why they hated pot and stuff.
Full of shit.
Right? It's like it's a bronchial dilator and stuff too, like for some people, but there are some people that they can have psychotic breaks on it too, and like certain traits or something like that. So they're I think they probably already have mental illness, and but I'm not against pot. I don't know. I don't care if people smoke it. I mean, and my brothers do around me, and it doesn't bother me or anything. It's just I think it kind of takes away from like the hunting experience too, what I mean? Because it's, in a way, it's like a kind of exercising the connection between you and the land, and
but like last year I did.
Right. Might as well. I mean, it ain't like you're out there doing it all the time neither. And it's ailing you from, doing the things you want to do or spending time with your family, the loved ones and stuff like that.
And well, I mean, even when I was smoking, it was almost like I wasn't present a lot of times. I was kind of off in my own little world and
to yourself.
Yeah. But but I really feel honored for being asked to be part of your podcast.
I appreciate you coming, pal.
I
really do. So, but I think we're going to wrap it up, though, guys. I'd like to give you a big special thanks, and welcome anytime you want to, So.
Well, for sure. I feel honored, and I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, that all your equipment here and like your production value seems pretty cool.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate it. I've been trying to work hard at it. I built my PC about 7 years ago, so I've been trying to update it since. And I've been into streaming and stuff like that, but then I just started recently getting into podcasts, because I'm not really the most confident person, and I don't know, still got stuff inside that I'm trying to get over and stuff, and it's been helping me a lot too.
You're like, well, there's you ever hear of what the heck's it called? I can't remember. I mean, maybe it's the pot I smoked a year ago.
Yeah, it could be.
But it's like the assumption that like those that are kind of goofy and like really confident don't know how much they don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And while those that are kind of more thoughtful and reserved have more knowledge and more, thought, and they're more thoughtful than these people that are out there doing it.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy. But anyways, I hope you guys have a great night. If you're new here, please hit that like and subscribe button. I do appreciate it. If, is there anywhere we can find you? Is it just on Facebook?
Yeah, I guess that's the only thing I'm on, really. So
right. But when you get your book written out, I'd like to try to read it anyways, but I'm not the strongest reader. I do like the Audible books. If I usually put in like Audible books, and I'll do my workouts. I'll beat up on the bag. I'll just walk in a circle or jog or ride my bike and stuff like that.
Yeah, you got a pretty cool little bat cave here.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. The boy loves it too. So it's more of an investment. People like say stuff like, why'd you buy a thing when you can just go to the gym? It's like, I'd rather just have it in my garage.
Well, and if you're paying $50 a month, $55 a month, it takes less than a year to add up to a lot of this stuff.
Heck yeah, what is the $500 in 10 months? So it's like, shoot, I could have multiple sets of plates in a bar. So heck yeah. But I hope everybody has a great night. See you guys later. Peace.